Hello and welcome to a special edition of STARCAST from Planet Waves. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, counseling astrologer and author of the Planet Waves horoscope. First, a quick housekeeping update. I'm planning to release the longer part of the monthly horoscope on Thursday night. That will come with an article and the usual Thursday night astrology podcast. This is the subscriber-only edition that will be distributed to the Planet Waves in-house lists and also to the Planet Waves Substack. Those of you who are regular listeners or readers, please be aware that there are two different Substacks clearly identified. One is Planet Waves FM. That's part of my nonprofit, Chiron Return, and the other is simply Planet Waves by Eric Francis. That is dedicated to astrology-related matters, though I do cross-post sometimes. It does help, though I know it's difficult to pay attention to what's coming into your inbox. And it's always discouraging to try to explain it when no one really cares. Okay, so there are two interesting aspect patterns that are in full flourish right now, and I have not had another chance to explain what they are. It's not really going to fit much in tomorrow's discussion of eclipses in October. There's going to be a solar and then a lunar that are coming up this month, and though they factor into this set of themes of events that are taking place in two patterns, one on the Aries-Libra axis, self-other mainly, and then another pattern that has been forming around the planet Uranus, which is in Taurus right now. It's going to be there for a while. It's been there since 2018, and that is indicated by the pink lines in the chart, indicate in the center of the circle, and also I've drawn them directly from the planets, and that's what inspired me to open up the microphone this morning and explain this and map it out a bit, because this is the kind of thing that, because Venus is involved in this one pattern and Mars is in the other pattern, these really are the planets that we take personally. We experience them directly in the human world. There's nothing out there about them, although at the moment both Venus and Mars are interacting with the out there types of forces. For example, Chiron, Uranus, and Eris. So those are far away. They can't be seen without a telescope. They are beyond the scope of ordinary consciousness, whereas Venus and Mars are about ordinary consciousness. And the question here is, what is influencing ordinary consciousness to be different than it normally might? Now, I know that I am speaking to the digital world, not the analog world. This is not the Thursday night gathering at the home of Isabel Hickey, is somewhere near Boston, which went on forever and ever until Isabel left the planet. And so the digital world is a different place in space than the previous analog world, and we're all first mapping that out. And I think that that's a good jumping off point to get into this chart. The center feature in this, one of two center features in this chart, is Uranus in Taurus. That have been happening since 2018. So it made two ingresses into Taurus, once in 18, once in 19, stayed in. Now it's been there, and we're most of the way through that transit. And this is a strange one, because Taurus tends to be really the sign that describes the quality of being grounded in the sensual world. It's about the senses. It's about textures that feel good and colors that are beautiful. It's about forests and nature and things that are made by hand. And as Debbie Kempton-Smith said, people who like to stay at home and eat baked potatoes. However, when we add Uranus to this mix, we get a lot of electricity, we get a lot of invention, and we get influence of technology. I didn't mention that because of its sensuous physical nature, Taurus is largely about the physical body and its experiences. And so I couldn't think of a more perfect planetary placement to describe the situation that we're finding ourselves in now, which is the body completely infused and disoriented, and its meaning completely scattered by digital conditions, which is a sublime form of electricity, so sublime that it's been able to create an artificial astral plane. That's what the digital realm is. The astral plane is the dream plane. It's where you go when you drop ayahuasca or acid or mushrooms. Your consciousness is opening up to another normally not easily perceptible and filtered out, I think, by what we call the prefrontal cortex most of the time, of the astral plane. So we're not supposed to be wandering around on the astral plane when we are in the physical world. This thing, in current brain mythology, the prefrontal cortex is supposed to filter all of that out, insisting that everything be absolutely perfectly rational and explainable, except when people choose to be perfectly irrational and make up phony explanations. And a lot of that is the influence of the astral. Dreams have their own logic. Acid trips have their own logic, their own lessons, that the things that are internally true but not demonstrably true from one person to the next. And so one of the many really insightful things that Marshall McLuhan said in the 1960s is that the computer is LSD for the business community. He didn't foresee the fact that everyone would be carrying one in their pocket. He could see a lot of the business-related applications, like he once said that someday a computer will track the destiny of every stick of gum. Wow, that sounds a lot like Walmart's inventory system. But now we are all high on the LSD of the business community, walking around with completely infused by computing devices everywhere. And this is having a profoundly disorienting effect on sensory perception and the nature and meaning of the body. Uranus is also generally a destabilizing, revolutionary, and inventive influence. And now let's get to the whole point of this discussion, which is that there is a conjunction happening in Leo, exactly 90 degrees away from Uranus, the most powerful aspect, in my view, and supportable by ancient astrology, the bending. And so, first of all, this conjunction of Venus and Uranus in Leo is a bit of leash pride. Dog trainers know that's this kind of attitude that dogs can get by being handled on a leash, and they know they have the authority of their master behind them. And so this is the thing that happens in relationships where one or both of the partners have leash pride because they've got each other on a leash, knowing that the authority of one or the other is behind them. And I say this because in Leo we have that element of pride and of being at the center, being the center of attention. Venus brings in the emotional, amorous factor, and Juno is about jealousy and scorekeeping in relationships. It's also the asteroid of marriage, but when you break it down, you actually find out that Juno is about one's mother's concept of the marriage partner, which usually describes the first marriage partner. And then it is about jealousy, retribution, and scorekeeping in relationships. Oh, you didn't take out the garbage 3 times. That's scorekeeping. So this is what we tend to call love in our society. And I'm not saying that it is love, nor do I intend to disparage the happy marriages that many people have. I'm merely here to comment on how much of what we call love is actually some form of leash pride and scorekeeping. Relationships have a way of making us socially acceptable. This is especially true of marriage, but I discovered this in a firsthand situation when I lived on Vashon Island in Washington State, and for a long time didn't have a girlfriend, and then suddenly I did. And then on this very small island, suddenly I was socially acceptable. And it tended to be an island that the mental milieu of the island was to have a phobia of single people who were often a source of mild social panic. They showed up at a party or something like that because, after all, they might take your man off the leash or take your lady off the leash. And it's really, really evidence that we live on this kind of Lord of the Flies planet of children who just are basically out of control and don't have very many good examples and don't want to think about very much. Meanwhile, so this Juno Venus can represent a kind of attachment to seeming stability in those kinds of relationships. And of course, we all know that in monogamous situations, the pearl of great price is stability. It's knowing that that partner is going to be there the next day. This, of course, is a kind of illusion, and it's related to the illusion that we are not facing existence alone when we have a partner. But the thing is that sooner or later, everyone figures out is that while friends, relatives, and partners and all that may at times be supportive and helpful, actually, ultimately, we must face existence alone. That's just how it is. Now, that's alone in the sense of the ego. It's not alone in the sense of the spiritual presence within us, the spiritual presences that might surround us as external beings, and the contact that we may have with other intelligences. But on the level of immaculate physical, egoic, individual reality, we face existence alone. But there's a palliative to that that's often used in the world, and that is the stability of the special relationship, or the seeming stability of the special relationship. And often that is infused with all the material of Juno, the leash pride, the scorekeeping, the expectations, the having the kind of relationship that your mother would approve of, and all of that. Now, these 2 points, as you can see from these pink lines I've drawn in, keeping this chart real simple, are forming a 90-degree aspect to Uranus now, and it is applying. You can tell it's applying because you know that Uranus is the slower moving in the aspect pattern. Venus and Juno move much more quickly, circulating the sun from 1 to 4 years versus Uranus 84 years. So they're going to lean into and form that square over the next couple of days. That is the possibility of a shock to these leash pride-based relationships, even pride in any form. But you got Juno in there, and that's saying that someone's standing around with the clipboard keeping the score. So the nature of the square is an internal dynamic that is projected outward. And a lot of what happens in relationships is that there is a tendency to use the other as a mirror of some kind. Instead of using internal consciousness, meditation, the mirror as the mirror, the partner becomes what is in reality a projection screen, and that projection screen makes it possible to not look directly in the mirror. Instead, the information comes along in a much trickier and slower fashion, where it makes it difficult, for example, to assess honestly whose property is that issue? To whom does that belong? And people think it's fine to kind of use their relationships as a form of therapy to work this stuff out, but that's really not very effective. You can only think it's effective, but at the end of the day, only actual therapy is therapy. And while relationships may be a forum for growth, until you really understand the projection issue, it's difficult to have them be so. And often what happens is that relationships become this long experiment in finding out what the projection issue is, and this can drag on for decades. So be alert to this, pay attention, and be bold about taking what is yours and remembering that, look, I'm not here to harsh anyone's mellow, but ultimately, as Bob Dylan said, you're on your own. You always were. And if you can offer your loving help, support, friendship, and assistance to others with no attachments, with no expectations, that's good karma yoga, in my view. Now, one other thing, I know we're going past the kind of normal time limit on these types of podcasts, but if you're around me, usually you'll get longer form. You can always turn it off. So there's another pattern that's been forming for a while, and that is Mars moving through Libra, and it is recently, I keep forgetting to mention this, and I don't think I ever explicitly mentioned it once. I don't know if you remember that I did. Tell me. I was working it into the horoscopes and still am. That we've been living through Mars opposite Chiron. This is exciting and unusual, and it only happens once every 2 years that Mars comes into opposition with Chiron, and it is these two planets of masculine orientation, warrior orientation at full expression. But what's interesting is that Mars is in Libra, but it rules the sign that is opposite Libra, which is Aries. And so we have Mars either in detriment or fall. I can never get those straight. But what it means is it's a little itchy and scratchy in Libra. It's a little assertive or overly assertive for Libra, and can have the inflection in the balance seeking of Libra, right? Taurus seeks stability. Libra seeks balance. They're both ruled by Venus. Can push it out of whack. Now, I often joke that Libra is the sign of the human blowtorch and can turn it all the way back down. You don't even know the thing's lit. Then you turn it up, lights up. Rock stars do this real good. They can be real laid back and easygoing. You might not even know who they are, and then you put the guitar in their hands and put them on stage, turn the lights on, and they turn all the way up to acetylene torch level. So Mars in Libra, opposite all this business in Aries, is saying, another way of saying, understand the concept of projection, understand what this is about, what this is doing, the purpose of it, and the use of it. So Mercury is currently in Virgo. It too will soon enter Libra and make this opposition to, down on the right side of the chart, the planets in red with a little kind of umbrella next to them. I guess the inverted umbrella, that's Aries, probably know that. And then Chiron, Eris, and the North Node going up 18 Chiron, 24 Eris, and also 24 the North Node, which brings me to my shuddering climax of this of this discussion. We are about to experience Mars on the South Node opposite Eris on the North Node. Now, we talked a lot of this about Ceres doing the same thing with Amanda Beatriz. If you go to Planet Waves FM, planetwaves.fm, the next to last program of the season, you'll see the discussion with Amanda Beatriz. If you are serious about reading the signs and symbols, and if you love this stuff and you love astrology, you will love Amanda Beatriz. Amanda. I've called her ABBA, but she doesn't like that because of the ABBA thing. But anyway, it's intended as a compliment. So you're on, Mars on the South Node. This is saying tune into the tendencies of whatever that represents for you, but then it's going to kind of home right in on the opposition to Eris on the North Node. And what Amanda said that I thought was one of the most really lucid ideas about Eris is that it's about seeking wholeness. It's about seeking sanity. I describe Eris as the fragmentation that we experience from the overexposure to digital conditions, the faceted, fragmented self. Yes, but there's always a corollary or a complement to that, right? There are two major facets to most of these processes that can be worked with on a daily basis. And she adds to the Eris discussion whole making whole, a kind of a holistic principle, and the seeking of sanity. That's helpful. Now, Chiron is in Aries. Note that they're going to form a conjunction soon. I keep forgetting what year that is. I think it's going to be 2026 that Chiron and Eris form a conjunction. Last time they did that was around 1971, at the dawn of all of this identity politics. Eris was still in Aries. It takes it 130 years to pass through Aries. It's longer than a human lifetime. So this is going to be the second bite of the apple coming up in a couple of years for Chiron conjunct Eris in Aries. But we're in that now, and the lunar nodes are going to be somewhere else. They orbit they orbit in 18 years. They make an opposition every 9 years. So this is a special moment, and we are in a time when karmic principles in relationships are more easily accessible, and where we can do more of the work. And I think that the work, I kind of don't like that, and it reminds me of some New Age presenter, but the work that I'm talking about involves owning our projections. And people talk about calling them back. I'd like to hear that cohesively. If you have somebody's presentation on calling back projections, please send it. What I'm talking about first is identifying the fact that the human mind tends to project its issues onto other people. And note that we are not in a time when the idea of personal responsibility is respected. Right now, everything is someone else's fault. How anyone might feel can be blamed on someone else. Whether anyone feels safe or not can be blamed on someone else. This goes on just simply, well, seemingly to no end. But there is no growth in blaming everyone else for everything else. At a certain point, you have to say, this is my life. Not about what someone else did or what I think men are or whatever that might be. It's about your life being your life and not resenting existence for that fact. Your freedom lies in the fact that your life is your life. You, to a great extent, make the decisions that set up your destiny. I'm not saying that we are not subject to environmental conditions, but there needs to be a whole conversation about the role of the environment and this digital space that we are in as this huge mirror. Remember, it's the place where a lot of people can't eat tacos without posting them to Instagram. It's ridiculous. And it is a testament to how we are conditioning ourselves to think that we don't exist unless we exist in digital space, and that everything has to be in digital space. And this is not about being creative. This is just about posting tacos. So you got to be a damn good photographer to turn a photo of tacos into art. But hey, if we want to have the taco as art photo essay competition, EFC at planetwaves.net. Please send me a photo of your tacos. Okay, so that's what I have to say now. I'll pick this up tomorrow. This recording is a good precursor to that because I'm going to talk about the eclipses that are coming. One in Libra, so it's Moon, Sun in Libra, and then Moon opposite Sun, Sun in Scorpio, Moon in Taurus. So we're going to have eclipses both in Venus-ruled signs, first in Libra, then in Taurus. If you're listening on a remote service like Stitcher or Apple or something like this, this podcast originates at planetwaves.eu. That is the shortcut to the Planet Waves Substack. The actual website of origin is planetwaves.net, but planetwaves.eu is a little easier to navigate around if you're not a subscriber. And I want to thank the influx of subscribers we've had, people getting it, that I'm doing something really unusual with astrology, and astrology is basically tofu. How you season it is what you get, and I'm here with the delicate light form of the seasoning, and mainly speaking to those who are having any difficulty at all getting through the day. So if that is you, here's some love and encouragement. And those of you who are getting through the day, please reach out and help someone who's not. If someone you know to be a little more outgoing has become quiet and taciturn, ask them how they're doing. If you know anyone who's not feeling well, drop them a note, drop them a call, tap on their door and find out what's up. Okay, signing off from Kingston, New York at 9:49 a.m. EDT. About to head down to the Planet Waves office to wrap up the monthly horoscope and next week's weekly. Thanks for listening. Lots of love, and bye for now.